handle click, and this is again going to be an arrow function. Now this is going to have a let keyword, and this will have a let of random index. Now this random index is going to be equal to math.floor. Again, guess what, this is generating a random value, math.random, and times 16. Okay, so we have generated a random value. Now we need to generate two other values. So right after math.floor, we'll be creating another let, and this time we'll be targeting our quote as well as our author. Which is going to be equal to this dot set state, this dot state dot quotes data, and inside this it is going to have a random index, because we want any of our quotes that is present in our quotes.data to be displayed. So we are presently configuring our handle click method, which is going to be activated on every click. Now a semicolon right after this. Now let's create a const, and it's const color, and this const is going to be equal to this dot random color. So right after this we have created up our handle click method that is going to be rendered on every click. So right after this we would want to again change our document style as well, body colors of a document. So we will be copying these two statements because this is what we are going to paste it here. So just copy document.style body.style.color and paste them, both the statements, right beneath our color statement. So now we have created up everything. Now we need to assign it. So let's just use this dot set state to assign it to our state. So this dot set state, and inside this we'll be assigning our quote equal to quote, our author equal to author that we are receiving from our API, and after quote and author we'll be assigning our color, which is again equal to be color. Okay, so we have set it up our state now. Now the question that lies with us is that where we need to call our fetch quotes, right? Because we have given it a function body, but we need to even call it, and we'll be using a lifecycle hook for that, and that is the component did mount, that is so that it is rendered after a screen has been displayed. So we'll be using component did mount. So component did mount, and after component did mount we'll be calling up fetch quotes in it. So let's just paste this dot fetch quotes. Now there is one more refactoring that we can do in the component did mount, and that is if we want to check that whether quotes.data is having data in it. For example, if we have loaded our data previously and we do not want to do that same process again, so we'll be just checking up we'll be setting up a if statement that is going to check whether there's data in our quotes.data or not. So let's just give it a if this dot state dot quotes data. If this dot set dot quotes data dot length is greater than 0, then we do not want it to actually call our fetch quotes. So if this is the case, then what we want is that we just want to return, and if not, then we want to call up our data, fetch quotes. So this is all set it up. We have handle our random color that is going to generate a random color for us, and these all are the keys, and this color which is having a hashtag in it. Now every time we call this random color, it is going to give us a different hexadecimal value of a color, and this color is going to be assigned to a button as well as a back screen. So now the only piece of code that remains is to add or pass this data via props into a button component. And so to do that, we'll be passing up 4 components in this. First one is going to be the author and the quote and this click property as well as a color. So the first thing is going to be our click. So this click is going to be equal to, let's name it handle click. Handle click is going to be equal to handle click, and after this handle click we'll give it a color. So let's just give it a color, which is again going to be equal to this dot state dot color. And after the color we'll give it our quote as well as our author. So let's give it a quote, which is going to be equal to this dot state dot quote. And after the quote we'll be giving it our author. So author would be equal to this dot state dot author. So now let's use a prettier to work. So we are having our buttons and we are passing all these 4 data. Now time to move into our buttons and refactor this button. So if we just head back into our buttons, so here is a button, right? And I told you that we'll be adding more properties to it. So just give it a return statement, and after this what we're getting is our ID, and this ID is going to be equal to props.id. Let me just get props in it. So we are having a props. So our button is going to have an ID that is going to be equal to props.id, and after this props.id we're going to have another feature that is going to be a background color. So give it a background, which is going to be equal to props.color. And after this background color we are going to give it a class name which we have already given, and an on click, that whenever we click this function and on click, this is going to be equal to handle click props dot handle click. So we have assigned this a handle click method. Now we need to add one more style into our style component, and that is going to be equal to the background color. So let's just give it a background color. This background color is going to be equal to our props dot background color. So yeah, we have given it all the properties that we had. Now let's just take a look and see whether our app is functioning or not.